been trying to figure out uncles all my life. My mother had 4 brothers and 3 sisters, and between her and my dad, I grew up with 10 uncles. There were some days when you couldn't leave the house without bumping into or tripping over an uncle. Well, some of them drank, you know. So. But I finally figured out the character of uncles is that they're basically all crazy. You don't have to believe me. Ask Brett's nieces and nephews. But I had one favorite uncle, Uncle Jim. He was a farmer. And I tell you, when you combine farmer with an uncle, it takes you to a whole new level of crazy. But he was a kind-hearted crazy. He was also a heavy drinker. He could put away a carton of RC before lunch every day without batting an eye. One year he asked me to go along with him on a trip to St. Louis. He was going to a farmers convention. And I'd never been to St. Louis, so I agreed to go along and I'd do a little sightseeing while he was at the convention. And the first thing I ran into in St. Louis was that great Gateway Arch. Boy, it is magnificent, 630 feet tall. And I'm standing there in awe of this great thing, and I'm thinking, boy, wouldn't it be a hoot to slide down the outside of that thing? Although I think the sudden stop at the bottom would probably take the edge off the trip. And the last day of the convention, they had just blew a button. They had a social hour, open bar for all the convention goers. And Uncle Jim invited me to go along, even though I wasn't registered at the convention. He said nobody would notice because they'll all be drunk before the evening's over anyway. So I agreed to go along with him, and we were going up to the room, the banquet room that night. Most people were already in there. And they had a table at the front entry where you do your name tags. You know, those kind of paper kind where you write your name with a marker and stick it on your coat or your shirt or your coveralls or whatever you got going in. I got to thinking, if this was a nudist convention, I guess you could stick that tag about anywhere you wanted to. And it probably would hurt coming off too, you know. But so I told Uncle Jim I'd make out the tags for him because my writing was better than his. So I started writing his tag, and I wrote his name in as big letters as I could, G-Y-M. Well, it's a homonym. What difference does it make, you know? And we're going to be around drunk farmers all night, so they're not going to know either. And then I decided I would go incognito since I wasn't part of the convention. So I started writing out my name tag. And you know how when you start writing something and you think you got all the room in the world, and then you get into it and you realize you don't? So you start making your letters smaller and smaller. And that's not working either, so you start curving it, you know, because the diagonal is longer than the straight across. And it took me a while to write Rumpelstiltskin in all on one tag. So we went into the room, and I was going to be incognito with that. I figured nobody would bother me with a name like that. And we hadn't been in there but a few minutes, and this fellow walked up to introduce himself. He was wearing cowboy boots, a Stetson hat. He had a string tie. You know those ties where you take your bootlace off and you put it around your neck and tie a bow in it and just let it hang down. And his name tag said Alvin. And I was wondering, I wonder if Simon and Theodore are with him tonight. And he had a pin in his lapel that was in the shape of the state of Texas. And he walked up to Uncle Jim and he said, "I'm from Texas." And Uncle Jim, in his usual understated way, said, "Do tell." And Alvin said, "Well, where are you boys from?" And Uncle Jim said, "We're from Kentucky." And Alvin said, "Well, "What kind of farming do you do there, Jim?" He was having a little trouble with his name tag, to be honest about it. And Uncle Jim says, "Well, I've got a few head of cattle, and I raise some tobacco and corn." And Alvin asked him how big his farm was. And Uncle Jim said, "Well, I've got about 90 acres. And he said, "How big is your farm, Alvin?" And Alvin says, "Well, you know, in Texas, everything is big, and we don't really think in acres. But I can put it this way. I can get in my truck at dawn and drive till dusk, and I'd still be on my farm." And Uncle Jim, in his usual understated way, said, "Yeah, I had a truck like that myself." And that was the last we saw of Alvin that night. And Uncle Jim said, "You know, I think we'll go up to our hotel room and hit the sack. I want to get out of here early tomorrow. I got to get back someplace where I can find me an RC." So I'm convinced now, knowing Uncle Jim as I did, that when he died, you remember how the ancient Egyptians, they always put the Pharaoh's favorite things in the tomb with him to make sure his trip to the next world was going to be nice and smooth. I think when Uncle Jim died that somebody sneaked a carton of RC in his grave before they threw that first shovelful of dirt over him. And I got to tell you something, I think an ice cold RC would be a pretty valuable commodity depending on which way you're going. Well, I tell you what, we've come to that part of the night when I know you all been waiting for it. We're going to have the big reveal. And I'd like to get Pete and the rest of the advisory board back up here with me so I won't feel so lonely up here. So come on up, folks, and let's wrap this thing up tonight. I'm going to ask Pete to yell because I'm not going to give him the mic. But
Hey, Chuck.
There you go.
We're going to keep this really brief because we've gone a little long tonight, and I blame Brett.
It was his job to keep us on point.
It was his job to keep us on point. He didn't do that.
We showed up late, so what do we expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to keep this fairly short. These folks that you see right up here, this represents WinCity Media. And it started with me and Chuck about a year ago. And I can't believe the quality of people, and not only these people up here, this is our board, this is our advisory board, but all of the great contributors that we've managed to get on board that share their writing, their artwork, their photography, their poetry, their just, fiction, just all kinds of great content. And we're just getting started, y'all. The future is very bright. So a few months ago, we started on this path of reevaluating who we are, what we do. We didn't really like the name WinCity News and Views because it sounded too much like a newspaper, and we're not a newspaper. We're a creative outlet for folks that have a voice that they want to be heard. And the voices are not just the people.
What was that part about keeping this short?
There's one in every crowd. So anyway, long story short, Chuck.
Too late.
Too late. We've got a new name. We've got a new logo. We've got a mission statement, a vision statement, and some core values that I want to share with y'all really, really quick. And on Monday morning, we're launching a brand new website. New look, a lot of new content. And we're always going to be adding more content because we feel like we serve a vital role in this community. We feel like we offer some alternative views and just a creative outlet. I'm not going to go on and on and on. So I am going to say that a whole bunch of people had a lot of input into selecting a new name, and we are going to reveal right now. We want to reveal. This is our new logo designed by Rebecca Campomones. And we are now WinCity Voices. And WinCity Voices offers connection, conversation, and community. And that's what we're about. I just said Rebecca. Yeah. Oh, you want to?
No, making sure you did.
Yeah. You want to take?
No.
Are we coordinated or what?
We're winging this, guys. No, we're just about to wrap up. I just want to share one more thing with you. I want to share our vision statement, and then I want to share our 5 core values, because this is who we are. We envision a community where diversity is celebrated and all are welcomed, inspired, and empowered to become active participants in the social and civic life of Winchester and beyond. And to support this vision, we have 5 core values: social justice, authenticity, giving voice, curiosity and creativity, and environmental advocacy. This is what we're going to be doing over the course of the next year and many years to come. And we're going to keep telling stories, because that's what it's about, right? Anybody want to say anything? You want to say anything, Chuck?
Haven't I said enough?
Anybody else?
One thing.
Go right ahead.
So as you guys leave tonight, out on the counter, make sure you grab one of the cards. It's got all of the different channels where you can stay connected with WinCity Voices. Got to get used to that. So make sure you grab one of those. And Pete really deserves a ton of credit, because he's been working extra hard and burning the midnight oil on getting the website switched over. So I think we need to give him a round of applause as well.
No, I'm glad you said that, because thank you, Mike. I do appreciate that. But these 2 ladies right here, LaShayna Harney and Sabrina Puckett, are the ones that are responsible for this night. It was their idea, their vision, and they've pulled it off. And I'm just so happy. I'm happy for you all to be here tonight. A lot of friends and new people that I didn't know before tonight. So thank you for coming out. We're so happy. We may do this again next year. Do y'all want to? Okay, we may do that. Good night, everybody.